He fired me from the company I built while I was still holding the clicker for his keynote. His mother patted my arm in front of the whole board and said, "You'll land on your feet, dear." 3 months later, I was the one signing the paperwork to sell the $24 million startup he gifted his mistress, without giving them a single cent. They thought they had taken everything. All they did was free my hands. My name is Quinn Wright. I am 32 years old, and I am, or perhaps I was, the co-founder and chief architect of Signal Ridge Labs. Right now, I am standing on the polished concrete floor of our Seattle headquarters, bathed in the obnoxious blue spotlight of our quarterly all-hands meeting. My husband, Ethan Blake, our CEO, is the one at the podium. The air is electric, not with excitement, but with the specific blood-in-the-water tension that only precedes a public execution. And I am the one on the block. "Effective immediately," Ethan says, his voice amplified by the microphone, reaching all 300 employees and the dozens streaming remotely. His expensive, custom-tailored suit looks sharp. His eyes, when they flicker toward me, look dead. Quinn Wright will be taking a temporary leave of absence from all executive duties. He doesn't say suspended. He says leave of absence, which is the corporate equivalent of putting a silk pillow over your face. The room doesn't gasp. That's the worst part. There is a collective intake of breath, quickly stifled, a few coughs, the sudden, frantic click-clack of keyboards as people instantly message each other on Slack. Ethan continues, pacing the stage he loves so much. He looks every bit the visionary tech CEO the magazines claim he is. "We need alignment. We need a singular, aggressive vision moving forward." Unfortunately, Quinn's recent emotional instability has become a roadblock to that vision. Emotional instability. The classic, the silver bullet for any woman who asks a hard question in a meeting. It translates perfectly to, "I questioned him in last week's board meeting. I asked why our new strategic consultant, a woman named Sloan Hart, was suddenly approving budgets she had no business touching. I asked why he was diverting resources from our core product to her pet project. I scanned the crowd. Our lead QA, Mike, a man I hired and mentored, is suddenly fascinated by his laptop screen, his face burning a bright, shameful red. 2 junior sales reps in the back row, barely out of college, are giggling, covering their mouths when they see me looking. The camera, the one live streaming this execution to our remote teams in Austin and Chicago, is still running. Its little red light is a glowing indictment. I am being fired, publicly, by my own husband, for doing my job. I keep my spine straight. I will not give them tears. I will not give them the satisfaction of the breakdown he just promised them. As I stand there, frozen in the spotlight, a new figure moves from the front row. Marjorie Blake, Ethan's mother, our primary seed investor. She glides toward me, a vision in platinum blonde hair and a heavy rope of pearls that probably cost more than my first year's salary. She smells like old money and Chanel, a scent I've always associated with polite, smiling condescension. She takes my arm. Her grip is surprisingly strong, her crimson-painted nails digging slightly into my blazer. She leans in, patting my hand in full view of the entire company, a perfect tableau of motherly concern. "You'll land on your feet, honey," she murmurs, her voice projecting just enough for those nearby to hear. "Women like you always do." It sounds like comfort. It feels like concrete. It's the sound of a coffin lid closing. It's not reassurance. It's dismissal. "You're done here. Go be resilient somewhere else." Ethan takes Marjorie's intervention as his cue to move on, his relief palpable. He clicks the slide remote, the very one I was holding 5 minutes ago before he asked for it back. "And that new vision is exciting," he booms, his stage presenter smile snapping back into place. He gestures to Sloan Hart herself, who stands up from the front row and gives a delicate, practiced wave. She's all sharp angles and expensive, minimalist silk. "While this is a difficult transition," Ethan says, "I want to reassure everyone that Quinn remains a valued, non-operational shareholder." A very small one, he omits. This is just temporary. Of course. We just need to give her space. He smiles at Sloane, a warm, genuine smile I haven't seen directed at me in months. And it allows us to fully resource our most promising new venture, led by Sloane Brightheart Analytics. The screen behind him changes. A new logo appears slick, minimalist, and completely unfamiliar. But the architectural diagram next to it is not. My breath catches. It's my work. It's the predictive modeling architecture I've spent the last 3 years building, sleepless night after sleepless night. It's the data pipeline, the anomaly detection engine, the visualization framework. It's my code, my design. He's taken the core of Signal Ridge, the very heart I built, slapped a new name on it, and handed it to her. I can feel 300 pairs of eyes on me, waiting for the explosion. They want the emotional instability Ethan promised them. They want me to scream, to cry, to throw the microphone. I look directly at Ethan, the man I built this with, the man I share a mortgage with. He won't meet my gaze. His eyes are fixed on the screen, on Sloane. I turn and walk off the stage. I don't run. "Quinn, wait," Ethan calls out, his voice laced with false concern. I stop at the edge of the stage and look back at him. My voice comes out shockingly clear, cutting through the silence. "If you've decided," I say, "I won't stand in the way." I see the relief wash over his face. He thinks he's won. He thinks this is surrender. The meeting dissolves. People are getting up, talking too loudly. A wall of noise rising to fill the vacuum I left. They are avoiding me, scattering like cockroaches when the lights come on. I head for the exit. But Marjorie is there again, blocking my path to the elevators. She's no longer performing for the crowd. She leans in close this time, the scent of her perfume suffocating. The faux sympathy is gone. Her eyes are cold, assessing. "You'll land on your feet," she whispers, the words sharp, almost a sneer. Her gaze sweeps over me, dismissive, like she's looking at a stray dog that wandered into her garden party, a problem to be removed. I don't reply. I walk past her, toward the security desk in the main lobby. "Brenda," I say to the receptionist, who looks like she's about to cry. "I need to turn this in." I unclip my access badge, the one with my picture. "Quinn Wright, co-founder," printed right on it. I place it on the counter. It makes a final, plastic click. As I turn, I slip my hand into the pocket of my blazer. My fingers close around the cold metal shell of a silver USB drive, the backup, the original core code, the one before Ethan and Sloane started polluting it with their strategic nonsense. It's the drive I always use for kernel-level debugging, the one that lives in my pocket, not on the company server. No one notices. Why would they? They're all watching the spectacle of the crying founder, the emotionally unstable wife. They aren't watching the engineer. I walk out of the glass doors of the building I helped pay for. The Seattle drizzle hits my face, cold and sharp, but it feels good. It feels real. I made it to the basement garage, level P2. My old Subaru looks tiny and out of place next to Ethan's brand new Tesla. I get in, lock the doors. The silence of the concrete tomb is absolute. And then, my phone lights up. A call from Ethan. I watch it ring, then decline. A text from HR Quinn. "We need to schedule your exit interview. Please respond." Delete. A call from our head of legal Q decline. My phone starts vibrating non-stop. A frantic, angry buzzing on the passenger seat. Ethan again. Ethan. Legal. Ethan. I pick it up and press the power button, holding it down until the screen goes black. The silence returns. I sit there for a full minute, just breathing, in and out. Then, I reach into my bag and pull out my personal laptop. Not the company-issued one I left on my desk. This one is old, covered in stickers from data conferences. I flip it open. The screen glows. I connect to the garage's weak, unsecured Wi-Fi. I open a secure browser. I type in an email address I haven't used in months. I logged in. The inbox is empty, clean, the account name Rightline Systems LLC. They think I'm falling. They don't realize I just let go. Sitting in this concrete tomb, the smell of damp cement and exhaust filling my car. It's hard not to let the timeline play back. They think I appeared out of nowhere. They think Ethan found me, a little tech accessory he could plug in. They forget I'm the one who built the entire machine. I come from Ohio, not the nice, suburban Columbus part. I come from a factory town where people's lives are dictated by shift schedules and overtime. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was a working-class kid who taught herself to code because it felt more like solving a puzzle than a job. I got my degree, then got a soul-crushing job as a data scientist for a mid-level insurance company. My days were a beige blur of actuarial tables and optimizing risk models for things I didn't care about. Then came the Data Analytics Summit in Chicago. I went because my boss paid for it, and it meant 3 days away from the office. Ethan Blake was the keynote on day 2. He was everything I wasn't. He was tall, confident, with a perfect MBA smile and a suit that cost more than my car. He was a visionary. His presentation was slick, full of inspiring graphics and buzzwords about the future of retail, and his central model was completely, fundamentally flawed. He was misinterpreting the cohort data, creating a feedback loop that would amplify false positives. He finished to thunderous applause. During the QA, I raised my hand. "Mr. Blake?" I said, my voice sounding too loud in the ballroom. "Your model. It's beautiful, but it's wrong." A ripple of nervous laughter went through the crowd. Ethan's smile tightened. Just a fraction. "I'm sorry. Your predictive model," I said, standing up. "You're not accounting for seasonal decay in your customer retention figures. You're treating a Christmas shopper and a year-round loyalist as the same data point after 90 days. I walked to the edge of the stage, picked up a dry erase marker, and started writing on the whiteboard he'd ignored. "If you run the simulation this way, you'll advise clients to pour marketing dollars into chasing ghosts." The room went silent. Ethan stared at the board. He watched for a full minute as I sketched out the corrected algorithm. Then he looked at me. And for the first time, the slick MBA veneer cracked. He wasn't annoyed. He was electrified. We had dinner that night. We fell in love so fast it felt more like a collision. He was the thunder. I was the lightning. He had the vision, the words, the hunger to be somebody. I had the code. I had the how. 6 months later, we were in Seattle, living in a cramped, rented apartment with a view of a brick wall. We had no money, no furniture except a mattress and 2 desks, and a shared dream. Signal Ridge Labs was born on our tiny balcony, over cold pizza and too many energy drinks. It was going to be a behavior analysis platform for retail, using my corrected model to tell brands what their customers really wanted, before they even knew it themselves. The first 2 years were a blur. I was the architect. I designed the entire data pipeline, from ingestion to processing. I built the predictive models, the automation systems, the dashboard that clients would one day see. I was the chief, the only, and the lead engineer. I coded for 18 hours a day, sleeping in 4-hour bursts. Ethan was the front man. He took my complex architecture and translated it into beautiful pitch decks. He went to venture capital meetings. He charmed investors. He told the story. "My co-founder, Quinn, is the wizard in the back end," he'd say, laughing, and they'd laugh with him. They'd clap him on the back. They never asked to meet the wizard. They just wanted the magic show. Then Marjorie appeared. Ethan's mother wasn't just supportive. She was the gatekeeper to the family trust. She flew into Seattle, took us to a dinner I couldn't afford, and sized me up over a glass of $20 Chardonnay. "So, you're the coder girl," she'd said, smiling. "It's so wonderful you're helping Ethan get his dream off the ground." "We're building it together," I said, my voice firm. "It's my dream, too." "Of course, dear," she replied, patting my hand, the same way she did today. She invested. The seed money came through, enough to get us real office space and hire our first 3 engineers. But the investment came from the Blake Family Trust, and with it came Marjorie's invisible strings. From that moment, in her eyes, I was an employee. I was the nice coder girl Ethan was so good to. I wasn't his partner. I should have seen it then. The operating agreement was the real warning. It was 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. We just landed our first pilot program with a local boutique chain. We were exhausted and drunk on cheap champagne. Ethan tossed a thick stack of papers on our tiny kitchen table. "Just the formalities from Mom's lawyers," he said, yawning. "Sign here, here, and here, co-founder stuff." I wasn't that tired. I read every single line. I'm a data scientist. I read the fine print. His lawyers had drafted it to give him 65% of the voting shares, and me 35. "Ethan, this isn't 50-50, I said, the champagne buzz vanishing. "Babe, it's just how the investment works. Mom's trust has to vest in me. It's a family thing. It's complicated. It doesn't mean anything. We're a team." I didn't argue. Not then. Instead, I took a pen and made my own additions. I sat there until 3 a.m., adding clauses protecting my intellectual property, clauses that stipulated any transfer of the core kernel, the predictive engine I built, to a third-party entity would require unanimous consent from all founders. I added a clause defining the scope of the license, ensuring that if my IP was used for a purpose outside of the agreed-upon retail analytics, the license would be void. When I showed him the red lines, he just sighed. "Quinn, you're being paranoid. It's us. Just sign it." "Ethan," I said, pushing the pen toward him. "We're a team, right?" He signed. I signed. I made a copy and put it in a fireproof box. The company grew. We got bigger clients. We were written up in tech blogs. Ethan's face was on the cover of a regional business magazine. The photo shoot was in our new, fancy office. I was there. But the photographer kept asking me to step back, to let the visionary have his moment. I ended up out of the frame, my hands still on my keyboard, fixing a critical bug while he smiled for the camera. The erasure was slow. Insidious. It started in emails. He'd introduced me to new VCs as our head of product. When I confronted him, he said it was just wording. Head of product sounds more defined than co-founder. "Babe, it gives you authority." "Co-founder is my title," I said. "It's the same thing." He'd insisted. Then the website layout changed. The About page, which used to have both our pictures, now featured a huge, heroic shot of Ethan. Founder and CEO, Ethan Blake. My name was 2 paragraphs down, a small byline under Our Technology. I swallowed the anger. I told myself it was just wording. I told myself the code was what mattered. The product, the work, the breaking point, the real one, came at an investor dinner 6 months ago. We were courting a massive Silicon Valley fund. Marjorie was there, holding court. I was sitting next to a potential investor, explaining our new anomaly detection framework. I overheard Marjorie talking to the fund's managing partner. Her voice was light, dismissive. "Oh, Ethan is the whole package. He's got the vision, the charisma, he's the brains." She gestured vaguely in my direction. "The girl is lovely. Of course, very loyal. She just does the technical stuff." I froze. I waited for Ethan, standing right next to her, to correct her, to say, "Quinn is my partner. She built this." He didn't. He just smiled, a tight, pleased smile, and nodded. "Mom's my biggest fan," he said, and they all laughed. He didn't defend me. He didn't correct her. He let her call me the girl. I felt something in my chest calcify. I excused myself from the table. I went home to our beautiful, sterile condo overlooking the water. That was the night I opened my personal laptop. The night I created a new, encrypted, password-protected folder. I named it Contingency. I started saving everything, the original architectural diagrams with my metadata, time-stamped. Every email where I proposed a strategy that Ethan later claimed as his own, scans of my notebooks, and a pristine, high-resolution PDF of the fully executed operating agreement. Complete with my handwritten clauses, I started building a vault, brick by painful brick. I didn't know what I was building it for. I just knew that the man I loved had let his mother call me the girl and the technical stuff, and I knew, deep down, that the technical stuff was the only thing holding their entire glittering castle up. Sloane Hart arrived on a Tuesday, not like an employee, but like an artifact being installed. Marjorie introduced her personally, gliding through the office as if she owned the place, which, I was beginning to realize, she effectively did. "Everyone, this is Sloane Hart," Marjorie announced, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the developers. "Sloane is a top-tier brand strategist. She's going to be the secret weapon that takes Signal Ridge to the national stage." Sloane was beautiful, but not in a soft way. She was all sharp edges and calculated poise. Dressed in a severe, expensive-looking white blazer, she was the kind of woman who made other women check their own posture. Ethan was instantly mesmerized. He brought her over to my desk, his eyes shining with a familiar manic energy, the same energy he had when we first started, the energy I hadn't seen in a year. "Quinn, this is her Sloane Hart," he gushed, like he was introducing a celebrity. "She's the one I was telling you about. She's going to make us a household name." I stood and offered my hand. Sloane's grip was firm, her nails perfect. She looked me up and down, a quick dismissive scan that took in my comfortable jeans and old university hoodie. "Ah, Quinn," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I've heard so much. You're the little wunderkind who does the numbers." Little wunderkind, the numbers. It was a pat on the head and a dismissal in one clean shot. I wasn't the co-founder. I was the hired help. Within a week, the entire dynamic of the company shifted. The meetings, which I used to lead, became the Ethan Sloane Show. I sat in our main boardroom, the one with the glass walls, and watched them. They stood at the whiteboard together, a perfectly matched set. They didn't talk about data integrity, or processing speeds, or model accuracy. They talked about storytelling. They talked about emotional narratives and brand journeys. "We're not selling analytics, Ethan," Sloane would say, her voice smooth and persuasive. "We're selling certainty. We're selling inspiration." "That's brilliant," Ethan would reply, nodding eagerly. I tried to interject. "That's a powerful narrative, Sloane," I said in one meeting. "But the data doesn't support targeting that demographic. The acquisition cost is too high, and the churn rate is over 40%. We'd be advising our clients to burn cash." Sloane turned to me, her smile tight and patient, the kind you give a child who's interrupted the adults. "Quinn, darling, let's not get bogged down in the technical stuff right now. We're trying to establish the feeling of the brand. We'll circle back to the numbers." "The numbers are the brand," I insisted. "The numbers are the product. If the data is wrong, the story is a lie." Ethan cut me off. "Q, she's right. Let's stay high level. We need to think bigger." He turned back to Sloane, and I effectively disappeared. The technical stuff was my entire life's work, and they were dismissing it as an inconvenient detail. I started to notice other things. The small, private signals that a data scientist trained to find patterns in chaos, couldn't ignore. I saw the way Ethan's hand lingered on her shoulder when he leaned over her desk. I saw the way he'd guide her through a doorway, his hand on the small of her back. I saw the quick, shared glances in meetings when I said something they deemed too negative. Then came the phone, Ethan's phone, which had lived face up on our shared nightstand for 6 years, was suddenly, permanently, face down. It would light up at 2 a.m, a muted, secret glow against the wood. "Who's texting you so late?" I asked one night, the blue light from the screen painting a phantom square on the ceiling. "Just VCs," he mumbled, not rolling over. "West Coast guys. You know how it is." I knew how it was. VCs didn't text at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday with heart emojis. When I finally asked him outright, standing in our kitchen while he poured his morning coffee, his reaction was practiced. He laughed, a short, sharp, pitying laugh. "Sloane, seriously, Quinn." He shook his head, like he was disappointed in me. "I'm trying to scale this company to 9 figures, and you're worried about her. She's a consultant. She's Marjorie's consultant. You're being paranoid. We're just working." He used my own logic against me. turning my analytical mind into a weapon of jealousy. I was paranoid. I was unstable. The narrative he would later use to crucify me was born in our kitchen, over coffee. 2 weeks later, Sloane made her move. She presented her grand idea, a spin-off. "The Signal Ridge engine is powerful," she said, presenting to Ethan, Marjorie, and me in the main conference room. "But its potential is being wasted on simple retail analytics. The real money, the prestige, is in the luxury lifestyle market, high fashion, bespoke travel, interior design." She clicked to the next slide. A new logo appeared, Bright Heart Analytics. She had named it after herself. "A boutique, high-touch analytics firm," she continued, using the core Signal Ridge engine to provide predictive insights for high-fashion brands. Ethan was captivated. Marjorie was nodding, her pearls clicking softly. I just stared at the slide. In the architectural diagram she'd included, it wasn't a version of my engine. It wasn't based on my engine. It was my engine. It was my data pipeline, my anomaly detection framework, the exact database schema I had designed. She had taken 3 years of my life, copied it, and pasted it onto a slide with a prettier font. "This is our core product," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You're just rebranding it, Sloane." "I'm elevating it, Quinn," she countered smoothly. "I'm taking your brilliant code and giving it a home it deserves." That night, at our condo, the fight I had been avoiding finally happened. "You can't do this, Ethan," I said, following him into the bedroom. "You can't just give her our entire company. That's not a spin-off. It's a heist." "It's not a heist. It's a strategy," he shot back, ripping his tie off. "It's a different market vertical. It needs a different leader. Sloane understands branding. She has connections in New York and Paris. You don't." The cruelty of it hung in the air. "And you do?" I asked. "She does," he said, and that was that. He sighed. The classic Ethan sigh that meant I was being difficult, that I was the roadblock. "Look, Quinn, Brightheart is going to be Sloane's baby. You're not a fit for that world. PR, fashion, it's just not you. You should focus on keeping the house here at Signal Ridge. Just keep the main engine running. That's what you're best at. Keeping the house. I was the architect, and he had just demoted me to housekeeper." The final nail came a week later. Marjorie hosted a lavish dinner at her waterfront mansion in Medina. It was, she announced, to celebrate the new expansion. After the main course, she stood, tapping her crystal glass with a silver spoon. "A toast," she said, beaming at Ethan, and then at Sloane, who was seated next to him. "To new ventures and clear vision, the Blake Family Trust is so proud to incubate Brightheart Analytics. And to cement our partnership with its new, visionary CEO, the Trust is formally gifting 35% of the new entity to Sloane Hart as a special incentive package." Sloane raised her glass, her eyes finding mine across the polished mahogany table. She gave me a small, triumphant smile. I looked at Ethan. He was clapping, his face flushed with wine and excitement. My blood ran cold. This wasn't an incentive package. This was a dowry. This was my husband and his mother. Transferring assets, my work into his mistress's name. This was pre-divorce planning, disguised as a growth strategy. They weren't just cheating on me. They were liquidating me. The next Monday, Ethan dropped a stack of documents on my desk. It must have been 200 pages, bound in a neat blue folder. "Hey," he said, too casually. "Just some formalities from legal. We need your signature to officially license some of the core data modules to Brightheart. Standard stuff." He was banking on me being too angry, too emotional, to read the fine print. "I'll look it over," I said, my voice flat. "Babe, you don't have to," he said, hovering. "It's just boilerplate. Legal already approved it." "I'll read it." I sat there for 2 hours. He was right. It was mostly boilerplate. Except for page 74, tucked inside a dense paragraph about intercompany data sharing protocols, was the poison pill. It was a clause that didn't just license the code. It transferred all intellectual property rights for any derivative works, new applications, or future state models based on the core engine. It retroactively weakened my IP claims in our original operating agreement. It was a legal backdoor to give Sloan everything. I kept my face perfectly, absolutely still. With my right hand, I tapped my pen on the desk, as if considering the page. With my left hand, hidden by the shadow of my desk, I held my personal phone. I aimed the camera. Click. A silent, high-resolution shot of page 73. Click. Page 74. Click. Page 75. I photographed every single page of the agreement, one by one. I attached the images to a new draft in my secret email account. Rightline Systems, LLC. Subject, Brightheart Transfer Agreement. Executed. I hit send. I watched the outbox clear. Then I picked up my pen. I looked up at Ethan, who was scrolling impatiently on his phone. Fine, I said. I uncapped the pen. I pressed the tip to the signature line. I signed my name, Quinn Wright. I did it slowly. I made the ink thick and deliberate. I held the pen to the paper for 2 full beats longer than necessary. It was a tiny private funeral, a quiet declaration of war. He grabbed the stack of papers from my desk before the ink was even dry. Great, thanks, Q, he said, already walking away. You're a real team player. My words. I won't stand in the way, hang in the air, a pathetic wisp of smoke. Ethan takes them as surrender, but they are just a statement of fact. His victory is so assured, he moves in for the final, brutal kill. And I want to be clear, he continues, his voice hardening, turning from a concerned husband into a prosecuting attorney. This isn't just about a difference in vision. We have unfortunately discovered a pattern of disruptive behavior, a deliberate attempt to sabotage the launch of Brightheart and mislead the new leadership team. Sabotage. The word hits me like a physical slap. He is accusing me of sabotage, against my own work. The slide behind him clicks, and there she is, Sloan Hart, smiling, a professionally staged headshot in black and white. Below it, in bold, sans serif font, Sloan Hart, CEO, Brightheart Analytics, and just below that, the final insult, in partnership with Signal Ridge Labs. As if on cue, a planted row of new marketing hires starts to clap. The applause spreads, hesitant at first, then growing stronger as people realize this is the required, correct response. They are applauding my replacement. They are clapping for the woman who is sleeping with my husband and stealing my company. Sloan stands, just for a moment, and gives that same practiced, regal wave from her front row seat. She is accepting her crown. Then, Marjorie Blake stands up. She doesn't go to the podium. She doesn't need to. She just turns, a queen addressing her court, her voice carrying a natural, aristocratic resonance. I just want to add, she says, her eyes finding mine, a laser beam of pity and steel. This company was built on a great man's vision, and it is the role of all of us, especially as women, to support our brilliant men. She smiles, a slow, knowing smile. Not everyone is destined to be the star. Some people are born to be the launching pad. The humiliation is a physical thing, a hot, prickling sensation that floods my skin. She has just called me, in front of everyone, a piece of scaffolding. The meeting is over. Ethan says something about exciting futures and breaking for lunch, and the spell is broken. People move, chairs scrape. A man I don't recognize, presumably the new HR director they hired while I was unstable, appears at my elbow. Ms. Wright, he says, his voice a low, medicated drone. If you'll come with me, we have your garden leave paperwork ready. He leads me to a small glass-walled huddle room right off the main floor. He hands me a folder. As discussed, he says, avoiding my eyes. It's 3 months full pay. You will retain your non-voting shares, contingent on your full compliance. Compliance with what? My voice is a croak. He points to a line item. A full non-disclosure, non-disparagement, and non-compete agreement. You are to have no contact with any clients, vendors, or current team members. 3 months' pay, to be silent, to not exist. I look through the glass and see Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie huddled together by the stage. They are laughing. Ethan says something, and Sloane tilts her head back, a peal of perfect, silvery laughter. I want a public statement, I say, my voice finding a sudden, cold anger. The HR man blinks. I'm sorry. If I'm stepping back, it should be my decision. I want a joint statement saying I am voluntarily taking a leave to focus on my health. It's a lie, but it's my lie. It gives me a shred of dignity. He looks panicked. He scurries out of the room. A minute later, Ethan pushes through the door, his face a mask of irritation. What is this? Quinn? You're making a scene. A scene you just publicly accused me of sabotage. I want a statement. No, he says, his voice flat, final. No complex stories, no statements. We already have our narrative. Yours is to just be quiet. He turns and leaves. I sign the papers. I have to. The HR drone takes them, visibly relieved, and then gestures to a waiting security guard. He'll escort you out. Escort me out. I walk the green mile, past the desks, past the faces that won't look at me, past the kitchen where I pulled all-nighters. I'm a ghost, already forgotten. The elevator dings. The security guard, a man named Marcus, who I've always shared a nod with, looks pained. As the doors are closing, a hand darts in. I'm a junior engineer, a kid named Ben, fresh out of Carnegie Mellon. I spent weeks mentoring him, teaching him how to optimize the query engine. He gets in. The doors close. The elevator hums. He won't look at me. He's staring at the floor, his face pale. I'm sorry, Quinn, he whispers, so low I can barely hear him. This is not right. I look at him, this kid who still believes in right. Don't be sorry, Ben, I say, my voice hard. Just remember who really wrote the code you're maintaining. His head snaps up, his eyes wide. He understands. The elevator doors open to the lobby, and he scurries out without another word. I'm walking toward the exit, the glass doors. Just 10 more feet to freedom. Quinn, Marjorie. She's standing by the reception desk, blocking my path. A final toll booth. The lobby is empty save for us. She steps closer, adjusting the strap of her alligator skin purse. She leans in, the third and final time. You'll land on your feet, she whispers, the scent of her perfume making me want to gag. But this time, she adds the postscript, the final twisting jab. My son deserves to be with someone who can lift him up, not someone who drags him down with her technicalities. I stare at her, at this woman who just watched her son detonate my life, my career, and my marriage in a single 30-minute meeting. Technicalities. A slow, cold smile spreads across my face. It's not a real smile. It's just my muscles pulling back from my teeth, I say, my voice light, almost conversational. I'm sure everyone will see who was dragging whom down. Marjorie's perfectly plucked eyebrows raise just a millimeter. She misinterprets my calm for shock. She sees it as the pathetic, empty threat of a sore loser. She thinks I'm already broken. Goodbye, dear, she says, and turns, her heels clicking on the marble. As she walks away, my eyes drift to the wall behind the reception desk. It's a huge, brushed aluminum plaque. Last week, it said, Signal Ridge Labs, founded by Ethan Blake and Quinn Wright. Now, it's new, a different font, bigger. It just says, Founding Visionary Ethan Blake. My name is gone, wiped from the timeline. I've been erased. The security guard coughs, gesturing to the door. I nod. I push through the glass doors, out of the air conditioning and into the heavy, humid Seattle rain. It's a relief, a cold shock that proves I'm still here. I walk past the gleaming new corporate tower, past the coffee shop where Ethan and I sketched our first logo on a napkin. I don't go to my car. I don't go home. I walk 6 blocks, the rain soaking my blazer, my hair plastered to my face. I turn down a narrow alley, into a street I've never been on. I stop in front of a grimy brick building with a faded sign for a defunct law firm. I buzz in. I walk up 2 flights of creaking stairs. I unlock a door. Inside is a small, windowless room. It's totally bare. It smells like dust and stale coffee. There's a cheap folding table, a chair, and a single power strip. I've been paying cash for this room for 3 months, ever since the night Marjorie called me the girl. I take off my soaking blazer and drape it over the chair. I sat down. I pull my personal laptop from my bag. I plug it in, open it, and log on to the building's terrible, stolen Wi-Fi. I open my browser. I logged into my secret email, Rightline Systems LLC. It's time to get to work. In the damp, quiet of my rented room. The only sound is the hum of the cheap server rack I've set up in the corner and the clicking of my keys. My hands are steady, the shock from the all-hands meeting, the acidic burn of humiliation, is crystallizing. It's turning from pain into fuel. I'm logged into my personal, encrypted drive. The folder is named Contingency. I opened it. It's all here. 6 years of my life, meticulously cataloged. I pull up the original, fully executed operating agreement. The PDF is crisp. My handwritten red lines from that 3 a.m. signing session perfectly clear. I scroll down to Article 4, Section 2B, the clause I added, the one Ethan called paranoid. Any use of the proprietary kernel predictive model outside the primary scope of retail logistics analytics shall be considered a new application, requiring a separate, unanimous consent licensing agreement. Brightheart Analytics, with its focus on luxury lifestyle brands, isn't just outside the primary scope, it's on a different planet. They didn't get a new agreement. They just took it. Then, I scroll to Article 5, Section 4A. Any transfer, sale, or license of the kernel IP to a third-party entity, subsidiary, or spin-off must be approved in writing by 100% of the founding partners. They defined Brightheart as a spin-off. They transferred the IP, and I, a founding partner, definitely did not approve it. That 200-page formality Ethan had me sign was a lie, an attempt to retroactively cover this, but it came after the fact. And more importantly, my original clause specified unanimous consent, which he, Sloan, and Marjorie deliberately circumvented. I opened my email, not the secret Rightline one, but a different, encrypted account I used to communicate with my lawyer. Her name is Lila Garner. She's not a Blake family friend. She's not a backslapping corporate lawyer. She's a startup VC specialist, a shark who finds loopholes in cap tables for a living. I retained her 6 months ago. After the technical stuff comment, I drafted the email. I attached the original operating agreement. I attached the photos of the new transfer agreement. I attached the internal marketing deck for Brightheart Analytics that I downloaded before I left. The subject is simple. They did it. My phone buzzes 20 minutes later. Lila. Quinn, she says. Her voice all business. No sympathy. I'm looking at this. Did he really think this would hold up? He thinks I'm an emotional coder? I say. He thinks I'm stupid. Well, his stupidity is about to cost him. This is an egregious breach. You didn't just get leverage. Quinn, you have a kill shot. We can file an injunction this afternoon. We can freeze Brightheart's assets, its operations, everything. By 5 o'clock, we can sue them both into the Stone Age. I listen, letting her words sink in. An injunction. Freeze their assets. It's tempting. The purely emotional, vengeful part of me screams to do it, to burn them down right now. But I look at the blinking cursor in my tiny, windowless office. I think of Marjorie's sneer. You'll land on your feet. A quick, angry lawsuit is what they expect. It's what the unstable wife would do. Lila, I say, my voice very calm. What happens if we wait? There's a pause on the other end of the line, a long, considering silence. What do you mean, wait? They're going to try to raise money for Brightheart, or sell it. Sloan and Ethan, they're not builders, they're storytellers. They'll build a narrative, get it valued as high as possible, and try to exit. That's their whole play. Go on, Lila says. Her voice is different now, intrigued. Right now, I say. Brightheart is just an idea with some stolen code. It's worth, what, a few million. But if they put money into it, if they increase its valuation, if they get a term sheet from a big VC, Lila lets out a slow, appreciative whistle. If they get a $24–30 million valuation, and then you show up with the documents proving your IP ownership, you're not just suing for damages, you're claiming the entire asset. You're not just a co-founder, you're the sole proprietor of a $30 million company. I want to do that, I say. I want to let them build their entire, beautiful, fraudulent castle, and then I want to walk in, show them the original deed, and take the keys. Quinn, Lila says, and I can hear the smile in her voice. You're my new favorite client. Okay. We play the long game, but you need to be smart. I lay out my two-tier plan. Tier 1 is defense, I say. While they're busy with their roadshow, I'm going to file provisional patents, not on the old code, but on the next version. The improvements I was working on before this, I file them under my name, under Rightline. I created a legal firewall. My new work is protected. Good, she says. That establishes a clean break. What's Tier 2? Tier 2 is offense. I'm going to build it. A new engine. A clean engine. From scratch. No Signal Ridge code. The one I should have built. Better, faster, and legally untouchable. While they're selling a stolen, buggy beta, I'll be building the market-ready final product. You're going to compete with them in secret. I'm going to win, I corrected her. After we hang up, I make my second call. This one is on a secure messaging app. The contact is just J.P. Jordan Pierce, the CFO of Signal Ridge. Jordan is a numbers guy, not a visionary. He's a quiet, nervous man who despises Marjorie Blake because she treats the company's finances like her personal checkbook. He's been sending me quiet warnings for months, little heads-ups about budgets being moved without my approval. The message is simple. They did it. I'm out. He replies instantly. I know. It was disgusting. Are you okay? I'm operational. I need to know what they did. The real numbers. They're bad. Quinn, it's not just a gift to Sloan. Marjorie's been moving money. She set up Brightheart as a separate C-Corp, then had Signal Ridge sell the IP to it for $1. It's a complete, fraudulent asset strip. I've got the cap tables. She's trying to insulate the new company from Signal Ridge's debts. I type, worse, he replies. The three-dot typing bubble appears and disappears. He's nervous. It's not just about insulation. She's leveraging. She took the 35% gifted shares in Brightheart shares of a company that doesn't even have a product yet and used them as collateral. My fingers go cold. Collateral for what? A massive margin loan from her personal bank. Over $10 million. She's using that cash to fund Brightheart's launch and, I think, to cover some of Ethan's personal losses from last quarter. She thinks she's a genius. She's using a worthless, unvetted asset to get real cash. The room suddenly feels very, very small. I understand. If Brightheart's value is ever questioned if, for instance, a pissed-off co-founder shows up with a lawsuit proving the company's only asset is stolen, the bank will call her margin loan. The collateral will be worthless. She'll have to pay back all $10 million, plus interest, immediately. And if she can't, they won't just take the Brightheart shares. They'll come for the Blake family trust, the house in Medina, the stocks, everything. This isn't just about Ethan's infidelity. This is about his mother's hubris. She used her own greed as the trigger, and she just handed me the gun. I sit back. I'm not just fighting for my company. I'm in a position to take everything from the woman who called me the girl. I opened a new browser tab. I go to the Washington Secretary of State website. I register Rightline Systems, LLC, as an independent provider of AI and data modeling consulting. I'm in business. I sent one last text. To my best friend Maya, a product engineer at a different company. Hey, just got fired. It's a long story. Her reply is instant. What do you need? A place to stay. An alibi. I smile. The first real one all day. A safety net. I'm building one. And maybe, For them, a noose. My laptop pings. An email from Lila. Just reviewed the last of the docs. It reads, "It's a masterpiece of arrogance. They're not just in breach, they've committed textbook fraud. Play this right. Quinn? They think they've kicked you off the chessboard. They have no idea you're about to take the king, the queen, and the entire castle." The severance pay from Signal Ridge hits my account at 9 a.m. on a Monday. 3 months' salary. It's the most insulting check I've ever received, and the most useful. Ethan and Marjorie think they're paying for my silence. They're not. They're funding my arsenal. I spent the first month's payment in 2 hours. My first call is to Noah Reed. He was my best senior engineer at Signal Ridge, a pure builder who hated marketing nonsense. He quit 2 weeks after my execution, citing a misalignment of values. I know this because he sent me a one-line encrypted message. "They're charlatans. I met him at a dive bar in Ballard. He looks exhausted. They're running it into the ground. Quinn," he says before I even sit down. "Sloan is demanding features that make no sense. She wants the dashboard to sparkle." Ethan is retasking the entire dev team to work on Brightheart. The core product is breaking, and he doesn't care. "Good," I say, sliding a beer toward him. "Let it burn. I'm building something new." "New how?" "A clean build. The engine we should have made. No Signal Ridge code. Better logic. Faster processing. And no ethical blind spots. I'm calling it Right Line." His eyes light up. Just a little. "What's the catch?" "The catch is, we're starting with nothing. The pay is crap. The office is a windowless room I'm renting by the month. We'll be competing against my old code. Marketed by a team with $10 million in fraudulent seed money. So, the odds are terrible, and the work is impossible." He asks. "That's about the size of it," I say. Noah takes a long drink of his beer. "I'm in," he says. "When do we start?" "We start that afternoon. I hired him, plus 2 of the best freelance data visualization specialists I know, using the rest of my garden leave money. Our world shrinks to that tiny, no-frills co-working room. It's back to the beginning late nights, cold pizza, the clicking of keyboards, and the smell of stale coffee. But this time, it's different. There's no Ethan, no visionary sucking the air out of the room. It's just work, and the work is better. We're not just building a clean version, we're building a smarter one. The engine Ethan and Sloan stole was my 3-year-old model. It was good, but it had flaws I never had time to fix. It had data biases I was still working to correct. Our new engine, the Right Line kernel, is built from the ground up to fix those flaws. It's more stable, it's more accurate, and I built in a module I've always wanted, an explainability layer. It's a simple, clear interface that tells the client why the model is making a prediction. Translating the complex data science into plain English. Sloan is selling a black box. I'm building a transparent one. Now, we need a client. I know exactly who to target, the ones who already said no to Sloan. Brightheart is making a lot of noise. Sloan is a PR machine. She's in tech blogs. She's sponsoring Women in Tech breakfasts. She's talking about narrative-driven analytics. She's pitching every high-end brand on the West Coast. And I know, from my old email archives, which ones were skeptical. My first target is a chain of high-end, minimalist furniture boutiques based in Portland. Their CMO, a sharp woman named Anya Sharma, had rejected Sloan's pitch 3 weeks ago, saying it felt like all sizzle, no steak. I found her email. I sent her a cold message from my Right Line account. Subject, the steak. Body, you were right to be skeptical of Brightheart. Their engine is flawed, and it misses key patterns. I built the original, and I just built its replacement. Give me 30 minutes and your raw sales data. I'll show you what they're missing. No charge. She responds in an hour. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be ready. The next day, Noah and I are on a video call. Anya looks unimpressed. "You've got 30 minutes. Just send the data," I say. She uploads a massive CSV file. Last quarter's sales. Noah and I run it through the Right Line engine. The results populate in seconds. I share my screen. Here's what Brightheart's model, my old model, will tell you, I say, pulling up a simulation. It will tell you your biggest growth market is 25 to 34-year-old urbanites with an income over $100,000. It will tell you to flood their social media with ads. Anya nods. That's exactly what their pitch said. And it's wrong, I say. I click to the right line dashboard. Their model is overweighting social media engagement and missing the gift variable. Look, I point to a cluster on the graph. Your real, untapped market isn't the buyer, it's the gift giver. It's older, more affluent suburban parents, buying high-end starter furniture for their newly successful kids. They don't follow you on Instagram, but they have a 50% higher lifetime value. Brightheart is telling you to chase renters. You should be chasing their parents. There is a long, long silence on the call. Anya Sharma leans into her camera. Holy shit, she says. That's exactly what my grandmother's generation does. How did you find that? My model looks for the truth, I say, not just narrative, and it explains itself. I click the explainability module. Plain text appears, low engagement, high value cluster detected, pattern matches, familial gift giving, recommend targeting high net worth empty nesters. We're signing with you, Anya says. No hesitation. Send me the contract. And who else can I introduce you to? That's how it starts. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. Anya introduces me to a CMO at a luxury skincare brand. He introduced me to a friend at a bespoke travel company. A rumor starts to circulate in the executive back channels, the private Slack groups where CMOs actually talk. They don't know my name. They just know there's a data witch out there, some wizard engineer who got screwed by her old company and is now operating in the shadows. They say she can take your raw data and, in an hour, find more profit than Brightheart's 6-month, $100,000 onboarding process. Secret consulting, quiet numbers, the anti-hype engine. At Signal Ridge, the panic is starting. Jordan texts me. Brightheart just lost the Verve Cosmetics deal. They had a signed LOI. Verve just went dark. Said they found an alternative solution. Sloan is throwing things. Marjorie is furious. Good. I text back. Let her be furious. Marjorie starts calling her legal team, screaming about dirty competition and stolen trade secrets. She is so blinded by her own arrogance. She is suing phantoms. She never once imagines the dirty competitor is the emotional girl she threw in the garbage. I stay completely dark. My LinkedIn profile still says Head of Product at Signal Ridge Labs. My personal email is silent, as far as the world knows. I am exactly what Ethan and Marjorie's internal statement said, taking a well-deserved rest to heal and refocus. I let them have their story. While they're telling it, I'm stealing their future. Jordan and I meet in a dark, noisy bar in Fremont, the kind of place no tech CEO would ever be caught dead in. It's our new routine. He slides a folder across the sticky table. Ethan is doubling down, he says, his voice low. Signal Ridge just missed payroll projections. He's diverting even more cash to Brightheart to make their numbers look good for the Series A. He's trying to make the spin-off his escape pod, I murmur. He thinks it is, Jordan says, sipping his whiskey. He thinks he can run Brightheart up, sell it for a fortune, and let Signal Ridge die. He doesn't know. He has no idea that the company he's betting his entire family's fortune on is built on a legal time bomb. I look at the folder. It's Brightheart's internal pitch deck. Their valuation target, $24 million. He helped them build it, I say, my voice cold. He helped them put a price tag on my work. I'm just going to help them get it properly valued. I tap the folder. By making sure I'm the one who sells it. I leave Jordan and walk back out into the rain. My phone buzzes. It's an email. It's from a managing director at a massive, multi-billion-dollar retail conglomerate based in the South. The kind of client that makes or breaks a company. The kind of client Brightheart has been winning and dining for 6 months. Ms. Right. Anya Sharma gave me your name. She said you're the one who actually knows what they're doing. We were about to sign with Brightheart Analytics. I've just put that contract on permanent hold. Can you be on a call tomorrow at 9 a.m.? I stop on the sidewalk. The rain is cold. I type out a single-word reply. Yes. I hit send. Rightline Systems just signed its first enterprise-level deal. Brightheart's biggest fish is in my net. The first crack in their castle appears not as a whisper, but as a headline on a major tech news site. Brightheart's sneaker gamble, massive inventory. Miss, consumer data scandal erupts. I'm in my tiny office, sipping my third coffee of the morning. And I almost laugh. A high-profile, sustainable sneaker brand had hired Brightheart for their biggest product launch of the year. Sloan and Ethan had promised a revolutionary campaign, a narrative that would capture the exact right customer. Instead, it was a catastrophe. Their predictive engine, my old, flawed engine, had completely misread the market. It told them the demand was in a demographic that didn't exist, leading to a massive overorder of the wrong sizes and colors. The sneaker brand was now sitting on a mountain of unsold, toxic inventory. But the inventory was a small problem. The real problem was the how. To get their insights, Sloan had pushed the engineers to implement an incredibly aggressive data-gathering script, scraping user information from third-party sites in a way that was, at best, a legal gray area. I knew this because I'd seen the flaw in my old code. It was a potential vulnerability I had flagged 2 years ago, a privacy loophole that could be exploited. I had built a robust privacy guardrail for the new Rightline engine, specifically to prevent this. Brightheart, in their haste and arrogance, they'd not only used the flawed model, they had weaponized its weakness, and they got caught. The article mentions a potential inquiry from the Washington State Attorney General's office. It's here, I emailed Lila. The countdown has started. 2 days later, the real bomb drops. Jordan texts me, his message frantic. They're investigating. It's not just Brightheart. They sent a letter to Signal Ridge, too. Of course they did. I knew this would happen. The original data licenses, the ones that governed our collection practices, were all under the Signal Ridge parent company, legally. Brightheart was just a subsidiary using its parent's license. They hadn't just exposed themselves. They had exposed the entire rotten structure. Jordan calls me later that night, his voice a low, terrified whisper. Marjorie, I've never seen her like this. She's in the office, screaming. She's terrified the AG is going to find a way to pierce the corporate veil and go after the Blake family trust. She keeps yelling about firewalls and indemnification. She's finally realizing the trust funded a criminal enterprise. She funded a house of cards. Jordan, I say, my voice cold. Tell me about Ethan. He looks like a ghost, Jordan says. He's aged 5 years in a week. He's sleeping in his office. He's trying to manage the Brightheart crisis while also trying to stop the mass exodus of engineers from Signal Ridge. He doesn't understand the tech debt. He doesn't understand the legal debt. And he's just yelling. He's yelling at everyone, demanding to know why the models are wrong. He still doesn't get it. He never will, I say. Keep me posted. The call I've been waiting for comes a week later, not from Jordan, but from Lila. Okay, Quinn, she says, her voice sharp and excited. The first shark is circling. A VC fund called Helix North Ventures just reached out to me. My stomach tightens. Helix North. I know them. How? I pitched them, years ago, back when Signal Ridge was just starting. They passed. Why did they pass? Lila asks. They said, we're concerned about the governance structure. That was their polite way of saying they didn't trust Ethan and Marjorie as far as they could throw them. They thought I was solid, but that the family office component was too risky. Well, Lila says, and I can hear her smiling. They were right, and it seems they've been watching you. They want to buy Brightheart. What's the offer? It's a distressed asset acquisition. They want to buy the IP, scrap the team, and fold the tech into their own portfolio. They're offering a baseline of $24 million, potentially up to 30, and this is the kicker contingent on all IP being delivered free and clear of any and all legal entanglements. Which it isn't, I say. Which it isn't, Lila confirms. They know it's not. That's why they didn't send the term sheet to Ethan, or Sloan, or Marjorie. They sent it to me, as your legal counsel. The pieces click into place. Helix North wasn't just watching me. They were waiting. They saw the news. They knew the company was on fire, and they knew the only person who could walk into that fire, grab the valuable asset, and walk out clean was me, the true author. They're not just buying a startup, Lila, I say, the scale of it dawning on me. They're staging a rescue mission for the technology. My technology. Exactly, Lila says. They're offering $24 million for your signature on a clean IP transfer. They want you to launder the assets for them. Okay, I say, my mind racing. I'm not signing. Not yet. Good. What's the play? I need to talk to Jordan. I'm going to have him accidentally leak something to Ethan. What? That Helix North is interesting, but they're spooked by the legal mess, and that they told Jordan the only way they'll even sit down at the table is if I'm in the room to vouch for the code. Lila laughs. You're not just going to sell it. You're going to make them invite you to the table to sell it. You're going to make them beg. They took my name off the wall, I say. I'm going to make them say it. It takes less than a day. Jordan, a truly terrible actor, reluctantly tells Ethan what he overheard from a friend at Helix. The reaction is immediate. Ethan, desperate for this lifeline, for this one single chance to escape the burning platform he's on, schedules a board meeting. An hour later, my phone rings, a number I don't have saved, but one I'll never forget. Marjorie Blake. I let it ring 3 times, then I picked it up. Hello? Quinn? Her voice? It's not the smooth, condescending purr I'm used to. It's strained. It's tight, like a wire about to snap. There's a tremor of rage just beneath the surface. Marjorie, I say, my voice light, pleasant. What a surprise. Don't play games with me, she snaps, the girl coming out as an insult. You know what's happening, Helix North. You've been meddling. I've been on garden leave, Marjorie, the one you signed off on. I've been healing, just like you wanted. Stop it, she shouts, the mask of civility finally gone. This is about more than just your hurt feelings. There are legal issues. There is an ethical responsibility to the company, to the family. Ethical responsibility. I almost laughed. The woman who funded a fraud, who cheered on her son as he gifted my life's work to his mistress, is talking to me about ethics. Yes, she says, trying to regain her regal tone. We need to talk, Ethan, Sloane, and I. We need to present a united front to Helix. A united front, I repeat, savoring the words. And what does that look like? It looks like you, she says, the words costing her everything. Telling them that the IP is clean, that this whole sabotage thing was just a misunderstanding. We will make it worth your while. Make it worth my while, I muse. You mean, you'll pay me? We will be generous, she says. I look around my tiny, windowless office. At the whiteboard covered in equations she would call technicalities. I'm happy to talk about ethics, Marjorie, I say, my voice turning to ice. I'm a huge believer in ethics, especially when they're properly quantified, and I believe in equity. What do you want? She whispers. A meeting, but not at your house, not at my old office, on my terms. Where? My lawyer's office, tomorrow, 10 a.m., you, Ethan, and Sloane. And you'd better bring your checkbook and your cap table. I hung up the phone. The countdown clock just started ticking a whole lot faster. Lila Garner's office is the exact opposite of Signal Ridge Labs. There is no brushed aluminum, no brightly colored beanbag chairs, no motivational quotes stenciled on the walls. There is only dark mahogany, soundproofed glass, and a severe $10,000 view of Puget Sound looking cold and gray. It is a room designed for executing contracts, not dreams. Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie are sitting on one side of the massive table. They look small, trapped. Ethan's expensive suit is rumpled, as if he slept in it. Sloane is vibrating, her leg bouncing under the table, her knuckles white as she grips her phone. And Marjorie, Her platinum hair is perfect. Her pearls are in place. But her face is a mask of strained, brittle fury. They look like a family on their way to a funeral. Their own. Lila and I sit on the other side. Lila has a single, neat file in front of her. I have my laptop. I am perfectly calm. The adrenaline and caffeine that have fueled me for the last 3 months have receded, leaving behind a cold, clear, operational stillness. On the 70-inch screen at the head of the table, 2 faces from Helix North Ventures are dialed in, their expressions bored and impatient. They are here to buy, not to talk. Ethan, because he is Ethan, speaks first. He's trying to project his reasonable CEO voice, the one he uses to charm investors. "Quinn," he starts, attempting a warm, familiar tone that makes my skin crawl. "I'm glad we're all here. This has gotten complicated. I know. But we were always a team. At the end of the day, we built this together." He leans forward, trying to make eye contact. I give him nothing. "Helix is offering a great price for Brightheart," he continues, the lie tasting like ash in the air. "We just need you to sign off. Confirm the IP is clean. Just a formality. In exchange, we're prepared to cut you in. We'll split the proceeds. Fairly." I let the silence stretch. I look at him. "Split it," I ask. My voice is quiet, but it lands like a hammer in the soundproofed room. "You want to split the proceeds with me?" I lean forward, just an inch. "The emotionally unstable woman you fired in front of 300 people, the one you already kicked off the cap table. How generous, Ethan." His face flushes a dark, angry red. Marjorie can't stand the weakness. "Let's not be sentimental. Ethan," she snaps. She turns her cold, assessing gaze on me. It's the full matriarchal glare. "You'll land on your feet, Quinn," she says. The word's a tiny, reflexive insult. "We all know that. This isn't about the past. This is a business transaction. We are prepared to offer you a very generous severance package, plus a finder's fee for your cooperation in this matter." Lila, my shark, speaks for the first time. "Define generous, Marjorie." "A few $100,000, Marjorie says, waving her hand as if swatting a fly. "A pittance. In exchange for a full, permanent, and irrevocable transfer of any and all claims you think you have on the intellectual property." They still don't get it. They're still trying to buy me off like a dismissed maid. I don't reply. I reach into my bag, pull out a thin, unmarked folder, and slide it across the polished table. Ethan eyes it with suspicion. "What's this more of your paranoid legal theories?" Lila taps the folder. "This," she says, her voice bright and clear, "is your new cap table." Marjorie leans forward to read the top sheet. Her eyes narrow. She doesn't understand. "Over the last 2 months," I say, my voice conversational, "several of Brightheart's original hire engineers have resigned. They were, let's call it, disenchanted with the new leadership." "So what?" Sloane snaps, her voice high. "We'll hire more." "So," I continue, "they were very early employees. They held convertible notes. And like me, they were suddenly in need of some immediate cash. So, Rightline Systems, my company, bought their notes. All of them." Ethan still looks lost. He's a vision guy. He doesn't read his own contracts. But Marjorie's face, her face, the color is draining, leaving 2 high, angry spots of blush. She understands. Lila explains it for Ethan, as if to a child. "Perhaps you should have read your own employee agreements. Mr. Blake, those notes contain a rather standard change of control provision. It states that in the event of an acquisition like, say, a sale to Helix North, the note holders must unanimously approve the deal." Lila pauses, letting the words hang in the air. "As the sole holder of those notes, Ms. right now has that power." "What does that mean?" Ethan whispers. Lila smiles. It is not a kind smile. "It means, if you try to sell Brightheart to Helix without Ms. Wright's written permission, You don't just get a payout. Her notes convert. She instantly becomes the single largest preferred shareholder in the company. With full veto rights and a priority liquidation preference, it means the Helix deal dies, right here, today, unless she says yes. The room is absolutely silent. The air is sucked out of it. Sloane is the one who breaks. She leaps to her feet, her chair scraping violently against the floor. This is extortion. That's what this is. She's extorting us. This is illegal. You can't do this. Sit down, Sloane, I say. My voice is still quiet, but it cracks through her shriek. You can't prove anything, she yells, her face blotchy, her mascara starting to run. It's all, he said. She said, you can't prove we did anything. Can't I? I say. I turn to my laptop, which is already plugged into the main screen. I click a file. An email appears on the 70-inch display, magnified for everyone to see. It's from Sloane's personal account, sent to a friend. The Helix lawyers on the screen lean into their cameras. I read the highlighted sentence aloud in a pleasant tone. It's a total coup. We basically just stole Quinn's engine and slapped a new brand on it. Ethan's mom is a shark, and the coder girl is too stupid and emotional to ever see it coming. Sloane collapses back into her chair. A small, animal sound escapes her throat. It's amazing what disgruntled friends will forward to you when they see you've been publicly executed, I add. The room is tomb silent. Then, a voice booms from the speakers, the lead lawyer from Helix North. All right, he says, his voice dripping with annoyance. I've heard enough. We're not investing in a lawsuit, and we're certainly not investing in that. He gestures at the screen with the email. Ethan, seeing the deal, his one lifeline, evaporating, panics. No, wait, we can fix this. We can offer Quinn what do you want? Quinn 40% ifty. Mr. Blake, the Helix lawyer snaps. Shut up. He looks directly into the camera, at me. Ms. Right? It's clear to us who the actual owner of the IP is, and frankly, you're the only person in this room we're not terrified of doing business with. Helix North is still interested in the asset, but we are no longer interested in a change of control negotiation. So, the lawyer continues, our offer is this. We will buy the Brightheart IP, but we will only buy it from you. We want a clean sale, from a clean entity, signed by the sole, undisputed proprietor of the code. That means Ms. Right. If we can't get that, we're walking, and we're telling the market why we're walking. He leans back. You all have 1 hour to figure it out. The video call cuts to black, leaving us alone in the room with his ultimatum. They're trapped. Ethan is gasping, his face white. He's not just losing the deal. He's losing everything. The AG investigation, the company. But Marjorie isn't looking at me. She's staring at the folder I'd slid across the table, the one with the convertible notes. She's not seeing the notes. She's seeing her $10 million margin loan being called by the bank. She's seeing the bank seize her house, her trust, her entire legacy. She's seeing her entire world go up in smoke because she trusted her idiot son and his mistress. She finally understands. Quinn, Ethan chokes out, a last, pathetic plea. You can't. This will ruin us. This will ruin me. I look at him. I look at the man I loved, the man I built a dream with, the man who called me unstable, who called me the girl, who called my life's work technicalities. You have one option, I say, my voice flat, final. Lila slides a second, new folder across the table. This is a stock transfer agreement. You, Sloane, and the Blake Family Trust will sign over 100% of your shares in Brightheart Analytics to Rightline Systems for the grand total of $1. You will do it right now. And then what? Marjorie whispers, her voice a dry rasp. And then, I say, I will become the sole legal owner of Brightheart. I will accept the Helix offer. I will sign the paperwork. I will take the $24 million, and I will sever your cancerous, fraudulent spin-off from my original codebase, forever. And what do we get? Ethan whispers, his eyes hollow. I stand up. I walk to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the cold, gray water. You get to not go to prison, I say. You get to not be sued by me, by Helix, or by the Attorney General for wire fraud. I get the money. You disappear. I turn back to face them. 3 broken, terrified people. So you have a choice. You can sign that paper, and I will take the company, or you can refuse. Helix walks, and we all burn. The difference is, I'm used to starting from zero. Are you? Lila picks up a heavy, expensive pen and slides it toward Marjorie. The clock is ticking. A week later, we are on the top floor of the tallest building in downtown Seattle. The Helix North Ventures boardroom is a glass box in the sky, looking down on the city, the sound, and the tiny ant-like mortals below. It's designed to make you feel like a god, or an insect. We are all here, the entire broken cast, the Helix legal team. A row of identical dark suits sits at one end of the table. Lila and I sit on the left. Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie are on the right. They are separated from us by a vast, polished ocean of mahogany. Jordan, as a required officer of the company for the paperwork, sits nervously at the far end, clutching a file. He is here as a witness, in every sense of the word. The final term sheet is on the table, a thick, bound document in front of each party. The terms are brutally simple. Helix North Ventures will acquire 100% of the assets and intellectual property of Brightheart Analytics. The purchase price, $24 million. The conditions are even simpler. 1. The IP is to be confirmed as the sole property of Quinn Wright and/or Rightline Systems LLC, which will then be licensed exclusively to Helix. 2. A full and final release must be signed by Ethan Blake, Sloane Hart, and Marjorie Blake, indemnifying Helix from any and all future claims, lawsuits, or disputes. This is the execution. We're just here to sign the death warrant. Before the meeting began, as we were all getting coffee from the obnoxiously expensive machine, I watched the 3 of them huddle near the window. Sloane, her voice a venomous, panicked whisper. Ethan, nodding, his face pale and sweaty. Marjorie, her arms crossed, looking out at the view, her jaw rigid. Jordan had walked past them, pretending to get a glass of water. He'd come back to my side. What? I'd murmured. Sloane, he'd whispered, his eyes wide. She just told them. We signed it, we let her get the money, and then we sue her for coercion and extortion. We say she forced us. We'll tie her up in court for 10 years. I'd looked over at them. 3 vipers, convinced of their own brilliance, plotting their next betrayal even as the guillotine was falling. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. Perfect, I'd whispered back to Jordan. They're going to walk right into it. Now, in the boardroom, the lead Helix lawyer, a man named Corgan with cold, gray eyes, looks up. We're ready to begin. This is, for all intents and purposes, a simple asset sale, but given the history of this asset, our counsel requires one final, verbal confirmation for the record before we execute. This is being recorded. A small red light on a speakerphone in the center of the table glows. Corgan looks at Ethan. Mr. Blake, to your knowledge, has any intellectual property related to the Brightheart Analytics kernel been fraudulently obtained, transferred, or represented? Ethan licks his lips. This is his moment, his one chance to lie. He's rehearsed this. No, he says, his voice a convincing baritone. Absolutely not. Corgan nods. Ms. Hart. Sloane sits up, adjusting her silk blouse. No, she says, her voice sharp. Of course not. The IP has always been clean. Mrs. Blake, Marjorie doesn't even blink. No, this is all a corporate formality. The IP is sound. Excellent, Corgan says, his voice flat. He makes a check mark on a pad. And finally, Ms. Right. I look at Ethan, at Sloane, at Marjorie. Yes, I say. The room freezes. Ethan's head snaps toward me. What, Quinn? What are you doing? Corgan the lawyer holds up a hand. Let her speak. Yes, I repeat, my voice cutting through the silence. The intellectual property of Brightheart Analytics was definitively, and with full knowledge, fraudulently obtained. It was stolen. Sloane leaps up again, just as she did in Lila's office. She's lying. This is her plan. She's trying to sabotage the deal. Please sit down, Ms. Hart. Corgan sighs, clearly annoyed. Ms. Right, that's a very serious allegation. Do you have any proof? No, I say. My lawyer does. Lila slides a small digital audio recorder onto the table. This, she says, is a recording from an internal Brightheart leadership meeting, dated 3 weeks ago. I trust you'll all recognize the voices. She presses play. The room is filled with sound. It's an audio file Jordan found on the company servers. Sloane's voice, clear as a bell. It doesn't matter if it's buggy. Ethan, we just need the demo to work for the Helix pitch. We can fix it later. Ethan's voice, tired and stressed. And what about Quinn? What if she finds out? What if she hires a good lawyer? Sloane, laughing. She won't. She's healing. Remember? By the time she lands on her feet, the company will be sold. The money will be in our accounts. And it'll be too late. We're using her engine. That's the end of the story. Lila presses stop. The silence that follows is absolute. It is the sound of careers ending, of prison doors swinging open. Ethan is a ghastly shade of gray. Sloane looks like she's going to be physically sick, right on the mahogany table. Marjorie is staring at the recorder as if it's a living snake. Corgan, the Helix lawyer, slowly takes off his glasses. He rubs the bridge of his nose. He looks at Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie with a contempt so pure, so profound. It's almost beautiful. You, he says, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. We're just asked, on a recorded line, if you had knowledge of fraud. You all said no. You have just, in the presence of legal counsel, committed intentional, prosecutable, bad faith fraud. You lied to us to induce a $24 million sale. He gestures to the phone. We can, and I will, send this entire recording and the transcript of this meeting to the Washington Attorney General. This deal is, obviously, dead. No, Ethan shouts. It's a primal scream of terror. Wait, please, it was a misunderstanding. We what, Ethan? I ask softly. We signed, he says, his eyes wild, looking at me. We signed the papers yesterday, the transfer. We gave you the company. It's yours. We did what you asked. Exactly, I say. I nod to Lila. She slides a second document across the table to Corgan. Excuse the drama, Mr. Corgan, but as my client's former partners have just helpfully confirmed, this whole situation is much simpler than it appears. Corgan looks at the document. His eyebrows shoot up. This, Lila explains, her voice projecting to the entire room, is a fully executed, notarized stock transfer agreement signed yesterday by Mr. Blake, Ms. Hart, and the Blake Family Trust, fearing, correctly, that their united front would collapse and facing total annihilation from a dozen different legal threats. My client offered them a deal. They would transfer 100% of their shares in Brightheart Analytics to Rightline Systems LLC for the sum of $1. In exchange, she would handle the disposition of the asset. Corgan looks up, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. He finally understands the chess game. Lila continues, which means, as of 10 a.m. yesterday, Mr. Blake, Ms. Hart, and Mrs. Blake have absolutely no legal standing or ownership in Brightheart Analytics. They have nothing to sell. They can't make a claim. They can't sue. They are, for the purposes of this deal, completely and totally irrelevant. She turns to the three of them. They are statues of horror. They just realized the trap. They had signed away their shares, thinking it was the only way to get to this meeting, to get the money. They had just, on a recorded line, perjured themselves about a company they no longer even owned. Legally speaking, Lila clarifies, Brightheart belongs to one person and one person only, Ms. Quinn Wright. I turn to Corgan, who is now looking at me with a newfound, profound respect. So, Mr. Corgan, I say, the deal is not dead. It's just cleaner. You wanted to buy this IP from a single, undisputed proprietor. Well, here I am. I gesture to the three broken people on the other side of the table. I am the sole seller. They, I say, are just an audience. They get nothing. The $24 million will be wired to Rightline Systems. And them, Corgan asks, gesturing to Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie. What about the fraud? The recording? That, I say. Depends. I am a forgiving person. I believe in second chances. I'm willing to not send that particular recording to the Attorney General. In exchange, they get They get the gift of my silence. They get to not go to prison. They get to land on their feet. Corgan nods. He understands. He looks at Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie with the disinterested pity one reserves for a bug. All right, he says. He rips the top sheet off the term sheet. Let's print a new signature page. This one, he says, smiling at me, will be much shorter. A paralegal quickly enters the room, picks up the old term sheets, and returns 5 minutes later with a new, much thinner document. The signature page has one line. Quinn Wright, President, Rightline Systems LLC seller. The Helix team is already reviewing their copies, passing them around, nodding. The deal is clean. It's perfect. Marjorie is watching, but she's not seeing the paper. She is seeing her future. She's seeing the call from her private banker at 8 a.m. tomorrow. The polite, firm voice informing her that the collateral for her $10 million loan has been valued at zero. The request for the full amount to be wired by the end of day. She is seeing the liquidation notices for the trust her father built, the selling off of her homes, her stocks, her entire identity, all to cover a single, greedy, arrogant bet. Ethan is staring at me, his face a mask of utter disbelief. The denial is still there, warring with the cold, hard reality. Quinn, he whispers, his voice hoarse, cracking. You're really going to do this. You're just going to take it all. He shakes his head, a pathetic, wounded gesture. After everything I gave you, all of this, I gave you everything. The audacity of it, the final, perfect lie. I look at him, really look at him, for the first time in months, not as my husband, not as my co-founder, but as a hollow man, a con artist. You gave me nothing, Ethan, I say, my voice clear and cold. You gave me a spot on your arm. You gave me a last name I'm about to get rid of. I built the company. You just signed your name to it. Big, bold, visionary signatures, but I was the one who wrote the code. Sloane, seeing her entire future evaporate, tries one last, desperate pivot. She turns to the Helix lawyer, Corgan, attempting to muster a charming, professional smile. It comes out as a grimace. Mr. Corgan, she says, her voice trembling but trying for boardroom smooth. Obviously, this has been a terrible misunderstanding, but the technology is still brilliant. I was the brand strategist. I created the Brightheart narrative. I would be open to discussing a consulting role to help you transition the asset. Corgan doesn't even look up from his papers. We don't work with people who have a history of IP fraud. Ms. Hart, you're excused. He slides the new, single signature page across the polished table to me. He places a heavy, expensive pen on top of it. Lila and Corgan stand up, as if to witness a state signing. I pick up the pen. I look at Ethan, at Sloane, at Marjorie, three ghosts, watching their own execution. I uncap the pen. I press the tip to the paper. I sign my name, a single, clear, defiant stroke. Quinn Wright. Done, I say. Corgan nods. Congratulations. Ms. Wright, the wire for $24 million will be initiated by our bank to Rightline Systems LLC within the hour. It has been a pleasure. We stand. Lila shakes his hand. I shake his hand. Marjorie, summoning the last dregs of her matriarchal dignity, stands up. She straightens her silk jacket, adjusts her pearls. She has to walk out of this room, and she will do it as Blake. She walks past me, stops, and turns. Her face is pale, but her eyes are burning with hate so pure it's almost impressive. "You will regret this," she whispers, her voice a low, venomous hiss. "You'll see. You've made a terrible mistake. No one wants to do business with a woman like you. A woman who wins, she means. A woman who doesn't just roll over, a woman who bites back." I step a little closer, just enough so that she can't look away, but just loud enough for the entire room to hear. "You said I'd land on my feet. Marjorie," I say, my voice light, almost kind. "You said it 3 times. You were right." I smile. "I just happened to land feet first, directly on top of the $24 million startup you tried to give your son's mistress." A tiny, choked sound comes from Sloane. Ethan just stares. Marjorie's face, for one beautiful, satisfying second, is completely blank with shock. The insult, my final technicality, has landed. Corgan clears his throat, breaking the spell. "Thank you all for coming," he says, a clear dismissal. "Our legal team will handle the rest. I'll walk Ms. Wright and her counsel out." He's politely inviting the Blakes, and Sloane, to get the hell out of his office. He turns his back on them, a final, brutal cut. Lila and I walk out. Jordan is waiting in the hallway, his face a mask of anxiety. He falls into step beside me as we head for the elevators, leaving the glass box boardroom behind. "I have never," Jordan whispers, shaking his head in disbelief, "seen anyone get so thoroughly, completely, and legally destroyed." He just kept walking into it. "They were playing their game," I say, looking at the elevator numbers descending. "A game of bluffs, and branding, and who has the right last name." "So what game were you playing?" he asks. "The same one," I say, as the elevator doors slide open with a quiet, expensive ding. "I just had the source code. I didn't just play their game, I rewrote the rulebook." Lila gets in the elevator with me. Jordan nods, a look of profound, terrified respect on his face, and turns to go back to his own new reality at Signal Ridge, or whatever is left of it. We rode down 40 floors in silence. When I step out of the building, the same Seattle drizzle from 3 months ago is falling, but it doesn't feel cold anymore. It feels like a baptism. Lila claps me on the shoulder. "Call me tomorrow," she says, smiling. "We'll open a very, very large bottle of champagne." "I will," I say. She gets in a cab. I stand alone on the sidewalk for a moment, just breathing. I don't need to check my account. I don't need a montage of me buying a new car or a fancy apartment. I just stand there, feeling the absence of weight. The massive, crushing weight that has been sitting on my chest for years is just gone. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from my bank. A simple, beautiful notification. Wire transfer received. I put the phone away. I'm not running. I'm not crying. I'm just done. I turn to go, and there they are. The lobby of the building has a lowered seating area. Ethan, Sloane, and Marjorie are sitting there, benched on a low leather couch. They look like refugees. 3 people shipwrecked, waiting for a car, or an ambulance, or an apocalypse. They look up as I pass. Their faces are white, hollow, and stunned. I stop, just for a half second. I look at the 3 of them, the visionary, the strategist, the matriarch, all brought down by one coder girl. I tilt my head, giving them one last, small smile. "You'll land on your feet," I say, my voice soft, returning her words one last time. "If you still know how to stand." I turn, push through the glass doors, and walk out into the rain. I don't look back. I am carrying $24 million, my new company, and the only thing that ever really mattered. The right to tell my own story, from beginning to end. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, and give that hype button some love so more people can hear this story.